I'm going to pull 2 more later today. So again, all you have to do is scan that QR code on the table, and it takes you straight to the surveys. And I'm giving away $50 gift cards. I'm going to give 2 right now. Is Dr. Kimberly? All right, you're our from the Army. Let's give her a round of applause for the Army. Thank you. And we have Rob Moore from T-Mobile. Rob, are you in here? 2 of the 35 people. I'm hoping next time I can, and you don't have to do anything, Rob. We're just emailing you a $50 gift card. So this is the easiest way to have a chance to win money. Just fill out the surveys. We really, really appreciate you guys doing that for us, because we use that information and we send that back to all of our speakers. Again, we are here to make sure that we are providing you accurate information that you are coming from. All right, so very excited about our keynote speaker today. I actually met him during COVID. He was supposed to do our Seattle event, and then the next year do our Seattle event, but we stayed virtual for 2 years. So I finally have him here in person. I have Dr. William Lidster. He's the CISO, Senior Manager of Information Security and Compliance at AAA Washington. He serves as the leader at AAA Washington Information Security and Compliance efforts. He's responsible to establish a responsive, dynamic, and flexible program to meet changing information security, regulatory, and compliance needs in all organizations. William serves on the advisory board that establishes required security standards across all of AAA's federated clubs. He has 25 years of experience in his field, serving similar roles for Puget Sound Energy, Providence Health and Services, Alaska U.S. Federal Credit Union, and the State of Alaska's Department of Public Safety. He has a computer science degree from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, a master's in IT, and an MBA from the University of Maryland, and is a PhD in Information Security and Assurance from Cabela University. Outside of his work at AAA, he is a part-time professor at the University of Washington and Penn State University, teaching graduate and undergraduate courses in cybersecurity and enterprise architect. I don't usually read the full bios, but his is so impressive I had to read it all. Today he's speaking on elevating your cybersecurity program, key priorities for CISOs. So let's welcome William Lidster.
Man, when someone starts to talk about you, you can get yourself very self-conscious. It's like, holy cow, whoever that person is, I want to meet that person, because it is not me. I'm not that impressive. So, well, good afternoon. You're going to hear me getting a little bit nervous because, as a matter of fact, I have a person ask me, do you get nervous when you come up in front of a large audience like that? I said, yeah, about 30 to 45 seconds. You're in an unfamiliar place, but glad to be here. Kim's right. I've actually participated in FutureCon a few times. I keynoted a couple of years ago. Surprised she asked me to do it again. But one of the things I've always thought about keynotes is they're really interesting people and they've got this great insight into things. And so when Kim asked me about this, I think back in October, I was like, what can I do that's going to be interesting? And I thought, well, then all of a sudden it becomes kind of a lecture. And though I lecture almost every night for the different universities, I don't like to get into kind of the lecture mode. I like to kind of make this more of a conversation kind of thing, even though it's one way, not to be kind of this like authoritative lecture, more of a conversation. So, fair enough. So, what brought me to what we're going to talk about today was reflection. About once a year, I wish I did it more often, but normally I'm too busy to stop and think. About once a year, I think about our security program and what we're doing at AAA Washington, what we're doing at AAA in general, as I have a lot to do with the formation of the cybersecurity and compliance standards to make sure the brand is protected. Someone gets a breach and, there's a breach at AAA Colorado. Oh, I'm echoing. If there's a breach at AAA Colorado, you see it as AAA, not like, oh, AAA Washington, you see the brand. And so there's a time to actually have kind of I would say, a reflection. And so about the time Kim asked me to do this, I was in that reflection mode. I was probably having a cigar, maybe a bourbon, in my favorite, cigar lounge, and started to think. And these three things that are on the screen are kind of what made me go, all right, what are we doing as senior leaders in the cybersecurity realm for our organizations? And what got to me is trends. There is a definite change in the technology climate today, right? We think about AI as not only a threat, but also as a enhancer to our business. But it's not like one thing and one thing alone. It's the environment. There seems to be a major shift in the environment in the area of what's going on technologically. Can't put your finger on it, but it's real and it's there. We're seeing new things in risk management too. Many new things and new requirements in risk management. Could probably bring out a couple specifics, very specific things, and that may not be enough. But when I was thinking about this in October, November of 2023 for my own organization, I was like, there are changes coming. You can feel it, right? There's a shift. Can't put your finger on it, but there's something going on. And obviously, the landscape of threats and trends of threats. We're watching CISA and the FBI talk about, the Chinese are in and they're a major threat. A cybersecurity advisory came out 2 days ago. The Russians are in our routers, just waiting for that opportunity. And this is maybe not new, but maybe there's just this new awareness. We have a little bit more information, and it feels like things are changing. So what I did, it was no particular number, the 5 things you should be thinking about. I was like, let me start thinking about what we should be doing. When I got done with thinking about this, I said, I'm not alone in thinking about these things and what it means. And I thought, this might be worthy of a share. So the first thing has to do with AI and ML, because no security conference or speech or lecture or presentation is complete today without talking about AI and ML, okay? But it's not a discussion of it's a threat and what you should be doing. That's not where I am. I don't think there's any kind of magic bullet. I have more of ideas and thoughts that I'm embracing that I'd like to share with you. Take take parts of it on approaches on what we're doing for AI and ML. Because it's there, right? It's there. The first thing you have to do, get comfortable with it. Accept it. It's here. There are too many things that are good about AI and ML for the business. Anybody remember 2006? Cloud. The cloud was the thing. Everybody was talking about going to the cloud. If you were a typical cybersecurity professional leader, you were resisting it. I've lost control. I lost visibility. Right? What are you doing? I don't understand the risk. We shouldn't be doing this. We're not ready to do this. We didn't put our controls in place. Sometimes there weren't controls in place yet. The industry hadn't provided us those controls, but we were getting kind of in the way. Nope, not happy with this. We were wringing our hands. We're talking about it at our tables. We're going out going, oh, the cloud. Oh, the cloud. It's here. It stayed. And one of the things that I think was a consequence of us as professionals kind of being resistant to it is then you got that kind of shadow IT and people started doing it anyway. And we lost the opportunity to say we embrace it and we can empower and protect you at the same time. And instead of being the empowering function in the organization and the protecting function in the organization, we became kind of the they're in our way function. And I don't think we want to do that with AI and ML in the environment. So how do you become the empowering and the protecting organization at the same time? One, embrace it, accept it. It's coming. It's here. Second thing is, get good at it. Know it. Understand it. Right? And how do you get to know and understand it? You have to spend some time as professionals in the environment into understanding it. Talk to your peers. What are they doing? Know where it's coming in, like it or not. Microsoft's Copilot. Like it or not, it's here. Right? People using other large learning language modules. Like it or not, it's there. Right? So what are people doing about it? And get educated on it. Talk to your peers. You know, I have some peers at AAA because we're a federation of 26 different clubs, and they said, we turned it off. We turned off ChatGPT, we turned it off. I'm like, nope, they will find a way. All right? They will find a way. They'll just go outside the network, get the same information, and bring it into the network. Some other way that it's there. I use a heck out of ChatGPT. I had to put together a new charter for a business continuity steering committee, and I started to do what I used to do. The purpose of the steering committee, what? No one pays me to be a creative writer. If you know anything about me, this is a majorly creative slide for me, okay? Ask my UW students that have seen my slides, okay? It's not pretty, it's really just bland. So I grabbed ChatGPT, said, produce this for me. 15 minutes later, I had a much better product than I would have created, much more comprehensive, made it my own, you know, and that is a great, you know, kind of a productivity enhancer. But we need to figure out how we are protecting ourselves while empowering it. Learn, know it well. And the final thing is, now be a leader and get in front of it, right? Imagine being in the position that says, okay, we're going to champion as security professionals, thank you very much. We're going to champion as security professionals the adoption, implementation, and use of AI. I want to be that champion. I want to get us there. I want to be a partner with the business. I don't want to be the person going, hey, no, we have to do security. Security first, security at all costs. I want to be the champion, right? We can effectively communicate the benefits. And then what we can do is say, when the organization goes, really? CISO? Senior security person? Compliance person? You're on board? I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this. Great, we're with you. What do we have to do it safely? They'll ask you that question. If you come in and say, no, this is not a good thing for us, they'll be like, how do we do this around you? Okay? There's no like, so what I need you to do is put an IDS, IPS in, you know, to protect yourself from, you know, security and get yourself, you know, AI, ML based, you know, capabilities. That's not what this is about. When I'm thinking and I'm kind of reflecting, I'm going, am I doing this and getting ahead of it and becoming a champion of this for the organization? I would offer that I think I am, you know, but I wasn't in late 2023. I wasn't anything. I wasn't against it, but I wasn't championing it. And now that I'm a champion, they're like, so what else can we do? I'm like, well, we can do this. And I can guide the conversation, put in controls, put in governance capabilities, talk about how we're going to manage and know what we're doing and where it's all going, and they're all on board. Just a thought. Secondly, I think, and maybe this is happening for you already, it was almost there for where I am in my organization, other places I've been, but not quite where I wanted to be. Become part of the overall risk conversation in your organization. Things in risk management are changing dramatically. How many people here are with a publicly traded company? okay? Things changed a lot back in July for publicly traded companies, okay? And so I would offer that what's happening with, what happened, we're going to talk about the SEC rule a little bit later on. What happened with the SEC rule on reporting cybersecurity, material cybersecurity incidents, and reporting your cybersecurity strategy and all, okay? That's the SEC for publicly traded companies. I think there's more coming. Remember that shift? You can feel it, but there's more. And cybersecurity as a risk management function needs to be integrated into the risk management discussion of most organizations. And how would you do that? Right? There's no real specific prescription because every organization is different. But I would offer, get fully engaged in the organization's business continuity conversations and capabilities. We're going to talk about this term resilience a little bit later, but we need to be into the resilience. Everything about business continuity, everything about risk management is about resilience. If you think about what we're doing when we think about financial risk management, like the CFO goes through, they're generally not going into protection. They're going into resilience. What we're doing above the line, what we're doing below the line, how we have investments, right? So that we have extra cash on hand. That's not a prevention. That is a protection response when there's a event and our ability to respond to those things effectively. Cybersecurity needs to be in that kind of conversation. We are part of the entire risk management ecosystem of this organization. This doesn't happen overnight. Okay, just saying, coming up to your executive committee and saying, we want to be in all the risk management conversations and we have our little piece of the pie. But it is something that you start working towards and you will finally, get to achieve. Know the implications. I'm going to talk about the SEC rule because, as I mentioned before, I don't think this is the end of it at all. Okay, but this is why I think you start to talk about being part of the overall risk management conversation. Because the SEC rule had basically two kind of new requirements, at least the way they defined them. One, you have to make sure that you disclose in SEC filings when you've had a material cybersecurity incident. Notice that term. I think this has to go through courts and there'll be a lot of other things because the term isn't breach. The term is incident. Okay? An incident isn't necessarily a breach. But now things of significance going on in your organization under your realm is now getting reported to stakeholders and other shareholders. As has been in 10K, 5K, and other forums to the SEC, other risk things. See how now all of a sudden cybersecurity is part of that, right, overall conversation. The other thing, and we'll tag on this a little bit later as additional conversation, is we're now talking about strategy. We're reporting in our annual filings, how we are assuring that we have a good risk management strategy, right? That we've got great governance, that we have assurance of our risk management capabilities and approach. We haven't had to do this, depending upon the kind of organization you are. Most organizations have not had to do this. You're no longer this hidden IT security thing. I would offer that you need to start considering and promoting that you are part of the entire conversation of the ecosystem of risk management for your organization. And finally, understand that you are part of your brand, or what I like to call reputational risk management. You're part of that, okay? Reputation risk occurs when an organization does something that stakeholders did not expect, and you have an impact when there is a large derogatory reaction to it. Okay? Google lost $80 billion in market value yesterday because of their Gemini issues that they're working on. That's stakeholder expectations. Now, I think Google's going to survive this, don't get me wrong, but you're talking about, the reputational risk. They didn't meet expectations. They're not capable of doing this. We have doubts on their capability of doing this, or else it wouldn't drop. If there wasn't a reputational impact, a confidence impact, the stock wouldn't drop. Okay? $80 billion loss of value. So cybersecurity can have a role in reputation risk management. Know the expectations, right, of your stakeholders. If you're publicly traded, that's shareholders. You have customers. AAA has been a brand for 100 some odd years. We have an expectation of our customers, not only from am I protecting the data and systems from a cybersecurity perspective, but the products we provide are protection, right? When you get emergency roadside service, the truck will show up. I'll tell you what, that truck doesn't show up. We've got problems, reputation-wise, right? And, be able to kind of understand what those expectations are. There are a lot of models that can take true data and tell you where those expectations are and even predict if you're about to not meet those expectations. Now, the models can be at a cybersecurity kind of lens or the entire organization and still include cybersecurity, wherever that is. Our idea of having cybersecurity breach insurance is an expectation. And it's the way we're protecting our reputation. When we talk about our ability to be resilient, when we talk about our ability to respond, when we talk about resilience and being part of risk management, we're telling people we're responsible and we have capabilities in place to maintain business continuity, be part of the continuity conversation. Okay? Now back to AI again. No, I'm kidding. We won't talk about AI again. We'll talk about zero trust networking. I just got zone-based networking down, I swear. And then they went to micro-segmentation. I didn't get that right yet. And then they said, no, zero trust. I'm like, oh, goodness. And I was like, I'm going to get zero trust. They're like, forget that. We're going to AI. So, like, goodness gracious. So I'm glad I'm still good at zone-based segmentation. Resilience, the ability to anticipate, withstand, and recover from cyber incidents. Resilience is bigger at an organizational level. That's why we have business continuity capabilities and other things that we do in the financial realm where we're keeping our below the line investments. So we have cash on hand. Should we have some kind of interruption to revenue? You're no different than what the organization, the company's been doing from other layers of risk management at all the time. I mean, they have a finance and audit committee on almost every board. Finance and audit. And they're governing financial risk. Okay, we brought about 5 years ago, we brought my function into the Finance and Audit Committee's overview. I may not be alone, but it took till about 5 years ago before that became part of the overall, resilience. Are we doing what we're supposed to do? And they're not asking me, how good is your control? Is your antivirus, stopping 98% of all things? And is your email gateway 99.9% effective? That's not the question we're having. The conversation we're having is resilience, okay? We need to have that resilience. And that is the key communication that I promote right now. And we'll, not to get ahead of myself, but, it's not always about protection. It's about the ability to respond. Resilience is the idea that you say, hey, stakeholder, I don't care if it's your executive team, your customers, your third-party vendors, your suppliers. We are adaptive. We can withstand issues, and we will be fine, and we'll be right back should we have an issue, right? And continually talking about resilience shows that you have agility to respond and you have capabilities. Nobody knows when your next attack is going to come or what the vector is going to be. Nobody knows it. Can you respond? And I don't think, and when I talk resilience, I'm not talking about incident response plans with tabletop exercises. I'm talking about the entire world of capabilities. When you're talking resilience, to your peers, your executives, your shareholders, you're not talking about we did an IR plan, we did a TTX. You're talking about your capabilities to be able to withstand and respond and recover to events, a multiple amount of events. And it's a continual language. We need to use that language. shifting from prevention to recovery or response and recovery, because we're not doing good at prevention. Okay? We've been preventing for 25 years, and the stats aren't in our favor in terms of breaches. There is a shift that we all have to say, we can respond and we can recover. Because we can sit here, especially all of us, when we're by ourselves and kind of talking our own language, and we kind of do that little snarky smirk that says, it's not a matter of if, but when. Okay? We need to be communicating that, not with that same kind of snark, but we need to be communicating that all the time in different languages to our people that we have accountability to, our shareholders, our stakeholders. You know, can we do full recovery? Can we get there? Can we get there quick? And the other thing I would offer, I've been on this soapbox personally for a while because of where I've worked, I would offer that system availability and system integrity is becoming more important than data protection. I worked for Puget Sound Energy. I would rather, I worked. So I'm not representing their position right now, okay? But there was a conversation where we were talking about protecting our customer data. If we had a breach in which, 1.5 million credit cards were stolen, we would send out the notification and all that and give everybody their, free credit monitoring, and guess what they'd be doing? Using our product while they're registering for their free credit monitoring. The lights would be on, electricity would be going through, the gas would be running. Okay, data, we can recover from that. Systems, right? I definitely don't want to lose control of the Grand Coulee Dam. Bad for some of those downstream towns. AAA Washington, our most important thing that we do is dispatch vehicles. It's the most important thing we do. We protect your data, I swear. I am, okay? But you're on the side of the road, 1 o'clock in the morning, got your 2 toddlers in the back, car breaks down, it's snowing, and you call us and we can't take a call. That's more harmful than, oops, I'm sorry, we had a breach and your name, address, and phone number got released. I believe we need to make sure when we're talking about resilience, we're talking about what's important to the organization. I was talking about overall risk management. I've talked about reputation. Some of this all sort of comes together by accident, and I figured that out as I was rehearsing this. Had no idea it'd come together so well. Okay? All right, and then risk transfer. Risk transfer is awesome. I'm a big fan of risk transfer. We're all too busy to manage all of it and mitigate all of it down to an acceptable level. It's time to transfer it. And transferring it, right, whether it be cybersecurity insurance, has a lot of, as an example, has a ton of benefits. Look at what we've done. I'm showing you our resilience. We brought on a great policy. We've got great services that come with our particular policy and our coverage. Great services. We're good. How good is your team in responding? Thank goodness we're actually not that good, because we don't do it a lot. Right? You don't want to hear that my team responds to incidents every other day. You don't want to hear that if you're a AAA member. Okay? We're not that good at it. Offload it. Right? We have a strategy. We've got a great service. We're going to stay viable no matter what's going on. Transfer it. We're all so busy. Why do we think we have to keep owning it and bringing it down? It's okay to transfer it. It's okay to delegate. Right? My opinion. That may not work for everybody, but I would offer, take a look at transferring risk as often as you can, as long as you're giving the transfer knowledgeably and to a good, a good place you're giving it to. All right? All right, number 4. There's only 5. It wasn't on purpose 5, okay? But I got done, I'm like, 5, what a great number. It sounds like something should be in a title, the 5 things you should be thinking about, okay? But it was totally on accident, I could have said 6, and that's a weird number. But re-energize your operation. This is for me, this isn't for you. I'm sharing what I went through. And if it has value to you, great. It's not a lecture of look how great I am and you all need to be doing what I'm doing. This was me. I was doing a reflection on kind of how we came through COVID, the pandemic, and out of it. And we did all right. I would brag about it. I wouldn't be afraid of it going public. But I'm wondering, and I had to think, did we transform or did we just make a little shift? And now we're just kind of running in that little shift, right? And I'm like, I think we need to look again and kind of shake off what we've done in the past and make sure we're very intentful, very energetic, on our approach and our intentions, And when I say reevaluate risk, I'm not talking about each and individual thing. I've told you before, there's something going on. This is my sense. There is something going on in the environment. Risk is bigger, different, coming at us from so many other vectors. And these are examples of the kind of vectors. And every organization is different. So I'm not going to give you like this prescriptive thing to do. But I would offer, stop and reassess again, right? We already talked about like what's going on with potential regulatory things with reporting. So are you part of risk management? Are you part of the conversation for your overall ecosystem? Are you thinking about things like resilience more than just protections? Really think about what it takes to deal with this, right? Not just, everything changed. I used to have one internet connection when everybody's at the office, and then when everybody went remote with the pandemic, I have 800 internet connection. Think about this in a kind of a different lens. Reenergize, reassess your risk management, understanding of what's going on in the environment. I like to pick on this because I've done a lot of research on this, and this gets a little bit specific. I apologize. But I've done a ton of research on what motivates people to do malicious and non-malicious behaviors in an organization that we consider violating a security policy. A ton of research. There's something, I'm glad I'm only a part-time instructor. I don't have to go on sabbaticals and publish all the time, okay? But this is really interesting to me. I would offer you some thoughts. That's all it is. Two types of insider threats, malicious and non-malicious. Top one, malicious. All the literature, all the psychology from 40 years of work plus other 40 years on non-malicious, right? Figures out why people do things they're not supposed to do, and they're intentionally doing something they're not supposed to do. And it's basically called the fraud triangle. You provide people an opportunity to do something wrong. They're under a pressure to get something done, okay? And they can rationalize what they're doing. This company's messed me over on something, so I'm going to do this when I leave them and take the customer database with me, so I have all my customers when I start in this new company. Pressure, right? They want to start being able to do sales as soon as they get to their new location, some kind of opportunity. Nobody's around, nobody's looking, I think I can do this, and then a rationalization. Training and awareness kind of stuff, because we all still say the human and the insider is the number one threat or the number one vulnerability, okay? You can use both definitions. Think about this and how you are putting together. I don't have a solution. You need to put this in your content and your training and awareness, or do this every 4 or 5 days. But make sure you've got intention in your training and awareness for your employees that is meant to pull away some kind of one of those 3 legs of the triangle. When there's only 2, normally nothing happens. They have opportunity and rationalization, but no pressure, they won't. They have opportunity and pressure, but they can't rationalize it. They generally won't. If you can address even one thing in your training and awareness, you're in pretty good shape. Then there's the non-malicious. They just did it. They weren't trying to do harm. Okay? Training and awareness is, often we think it's about education. We're educating our users. We're educating our company, our employees. They're educated. If you were to stop, tell them to not think about their job and show them the bad email You know, they're going to be like, yep, that's a bad email. Show them 10. We do that, our annual one, identify the 10 that are bad. Boy, people rock it. And then they click the bad one later on in their work. It's not education, it's a behavior change. Think about that. You're trying to do a behavior change. This is going like when I go re-energize your security program. The end user is still like the weakest vector, threat, vulnerability, whatever you want to call it. So if you're re-energizing, right, your program, think about the fact that what you're trying to do is change behavior. It's not education, right? They know this stuff. Do I have the magic on how to do that? No, every organization's different. Every culture's different. We have, a third of our company are call center folks, okay? Another 20% of our company are on the road. They're not in the IT systems a lot, and they're definitely not exposed to a broad range of different IT. The CSR isn't getting a lot of email from customers and vendors and reports from how we're doing things. So they've got a different kind of exposure than accounting, finance, marketing, our insurance leg, our travel leg, right, our HR leg, and stuff like that. So since every organization is different, your approach is going to be different. I just offer that particular thought. Time check. We're doing good. Drive risk management, operation engineering teams to a new performance level. This is for me. I was kind of sitting there back in October. I'm like, we've got a pretty good security program. We do. We do. Again, it's one that I would tout as not the model, the most perfect one, but totally fit for purpose and doing good. And we haven't had a breach since I've been there. I've been lucky. Not like because we're that good. Been lucky, if you will, okay? All of a sudden I realized there's probably a level of complacence. Sure, we've got new initiatives. We're rolling out a brand new EDR this year. We're rolling out a brand new SASE right now this year, right? We're doing stuff with MPIP that we've never done before within the DLP space, moving that dial forward. We've got a lot of great work going on, but it's just work. We've done this before, right? It's kind of like if you've been in IT and you're doing your every 3-4 year desktop refresh. It's new. It's the same thing, right? Re-energize. Make sure you don't have complacence. And I think we were almost there. Like I said, this was my thought that I'm sharing with you, not lecturing you that you have this in your environment and you need to stop that and you're bad. This is my thoughts that I'm sharing with you. There was a complacency. We are moving into and we're moving as a team within IT, within the organization that I have influence and shareholders. That includes our business continuity steering committees, my IT risk and governance committee, the executives, the finance audit committee. We're putting in a new level of energy awareness. We're looking at risk differently, right? We're looking at how we're part of the risk discussion differently. We're looking at resiliency differently. We're looking at all this stuff far differently with a whole new lens, refreshed, not just the old things that we've done before that have gotten us where we're at. Okay? To be able to say, and these are the kind of things that happen where you kind of get complacent. We've been successful. Haven't had a breach since I've been there, almost 7 years. You know what I mean? I have resource constraints. And I don't have resource constraints in this way where it goes, well, I can't win, so heck with it. We get kind of what we need, but we still have constraints, Maybe a false sense of security. We did have an issue about 2 weeks ago, which was, I'll share, it's not going to, where we had a individual do something on their workstation that we would highly frown upon, okay? They recognized what they did, possible compromise of their workstation. They called the help desk first. Help desk wasn't available. So they left a voicemail and they continued on. Help desk got to the voicemail about an hour later, reached out back to that particular employee. The employee's done shift. So the help desk went, and they sent me and my team a ticket. at 4 o'clock in the afternoon that we got the next morning. And we had a, for sure, undoubtedly breach of that workstation. Didn't laterally move, whatever, but we had a breach of a workstation, right? And we haven't had these kind of things a lot, and people forgot that, hey, that's important. That's a big deal. Not that the workstation itself was of any value. There's no data on it, and 1 out of 200 CSRs go offline. We'll be all right. The lateral movement and things like that could have been going on, right, with that particular compromise. False sense of security, we didn't respond to it well. I got ticked. I elevated our requirement for taking things more urgently and what those should be. And that is kind of my own self-reflection. So again, not up here saying we've got it all perfect and here's what you should do and take lessons from me. Just offering you stuff that you should think about. Last one, and by the way, every section has had 3 sub. I changed it up on you. There's only 2 subsections to this one. Okay? Change it up on you. Keep you on your toes. Going into and having conversations, not about the what you're doing, but how well you're doing it. There'll be some tie-ins for other things that we've just talked about and covered. I've talked about, but hopefully it feels conversational. Okay? No, moving away from the what and going into the how. This was for me about a year ago. And I'm still working on the how. That's hard sometimes, right? But we're trying to demonstrate our effectiveness. Not say what we're doing, but how well we're doing. I will be honest, I don't have the prescription. I just think these 2 things are the things that need to be done, but I definitely don't say I have it perfectly down yet, even for my own organization, let alone yours. Okay? Convert what you do to how well it is done. When I first started at AAA Washington, the stuff on the top left was the kind of stuff that was getting reported to executives and other shareholders, the CIO, stuff like that. Hey, there were 852, well, the number would be far greater than that, but anyway, just some random number. There are 852 spam messages were blocked in January. We're doing great. Your tool's doing what it's supposed to do, right? It's doing what it's supposed to do. But it was sort of statistics and data. And then when I came on board, I went to the top right. This is what I was doing. I had to brief a bunch of stakeholders. I worked on, kind of a dashboard, worked it through a little bit. And what I was doing was talking about what we're doing. We had a pretty immature program, admittedly. We had a lot of security stuff going on with no rhyme or reason or glue to it. So we were putting that together and we were talking about what we were doing. 3-4 years later, because I've been there almost 7, so this is a recent change, when we went to the bottom, was, man, I'm not telling you anything new. I'm not helping anybody understand what we're doing, how well we're doing it. If we were a publicly traded company, I'm not doing a darn thing that's helping someone report in our 5Ks and our 10Ks how our strategy is and how we're doing risk management. I'm not doing a darn thing, right? I'm telling you, we're doing stuff. Now, we got a PCI audit coming in. Oh, we passed it. Well, that's table stakes now after 5 years. We have a NIST compliance audit. We passed it. Table stakes, but we did it. Right? We're changing our SASE, we're changing our EDR. What does that have to do with how well we are doing our program? Okay? So I moved to the bottom. I got lucky, we worked hard on trying to figure out how to do this, and we start figuring out a new approach on how to measure our effectiveness. For instance, we do report effectiveness on our phishing campaigns that we do at least every quarter, at least. Sometimes I do more, right? We're very, very, very effective. I'm getting really low rates. It's weird. It was so good that I had CISO do a phishing campaign. I had another company do a phishing campaign to make sure there was no bias in the technology we're using or something like that. We're doing really good. And I'll tell you what, I still tell them, don't believe the hype. I don't know why we've got such a great or low response rate, but we're reporting this. the training and awareness and all the other work that we're doing, and we're publishing stuff on the web and we're doing other things, appears to be working. Here's a measure. Our vulnerability management. It's just not like, oh, we patched how many systems? We changed that into how many systems did we patch 100% first shot? Because as soon as IT gets done patching, I run my Rapid7 against it, and we come back to them and we say, hey, you missed 8. And they've got 48 hours and they fix it. This is an agreement. We changed that to how well did they do it before I got done with Rapid7. I'm reporting the Rapid7 results. IT got 7 done, all but 7 done perfectly, and we're doing better. Because doing the Rapid7 is just a control assurance, not a control. We're trying to measure how well our controls are. We actually, we use a product that does a lot of autonomous response to events. The better we're doing, the more autonomous it is. The more autonomous it is, the better we're doing. And we track that, and we're always tuning the tool, because when something's going on and it's crossing our network, it's not the time I get an alert. That then goes to the help desk, and then finally goes to me, and then we're looking at it. We're trying to figure out through our analysis system what that thing might be. That is not good. More autonomy or work, the better. This is our approach. We're using the tool sets we have. We don't have a little fancy way to do everything and roll it all up into Tableau and stuff like that. We don't have that, but we were able to find this way and this approach. And then final thing, because there's only 2, I told you, not 3 for this one. Make sure you're given the information that is needed to ensure we understand the strategy. We understand your effectiveness, right? We are doing good governance. What's the board or the executive committee going to be asking? And it's not how many viruses did you suppress in January, right? Understand the questions that they're asking. Give them some of the information that gives them a picture that all is well. That's their job. And oversight, their job is our risk management, our security our program as part of the overall risk management, as part of all of our resilience, right, is responsive, is doing good, and we can speak to it because of the information we get. We can speak to that. We can put the stuff in a 5K or a 10K, or, right, in any other kind of way where they're having their internal conversations, and they've got that certainty. All right. So, looking forward. We don't have a lot of time to do that sometimes. I don't know about you, but I'm really, really busy. I had an hour off yesterday on my calendar, and I'm sure I'm not, all I'm saying is I'm with you, because I'm sure you're a lot the same, except for one of my interns, he takes like 5-hour lunches. He's here, by the way. So but all joking aside, pause. Gave you a little framework to think about. Everybody kind of sees this kind of problem of looking forward, how they're doing risk management, how they're doing resilience, how they're re-energizing their operations, how they're getting themselves ready for 2024 and beyond. It's not too late. It's not March yet. We had an extra day before March came. Okay, so we're still only in 2 months in, not beginning of the 3rd month. And I would just offer that's a framework to consider. It comes from my thoughts that I'm just kind of sharing with you, not directing, and this is the best practice, and listen to what I say. That's not who I am, and I really appreciate your time. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and I'll be able to stick around for a couple hours. If there's ever just a want to chit-chat, I'm available, and I thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your conference. And I don't know what to do after that, so I'm going to exit stage left. Oh, take questions. I guess I could take questions. I didn't know that. I don't do this a lot, okay? Anyway, real quick, do you know why? I teach for students, and as soon as you're done, they all just disappear. They never ask questions. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Lidster. I appreciate what you had
We know each other, but I can't. There we go. I was like, I know you.
It's very good to see you, sir.
Hey.
I appreciated what you said earlier about emerging technologies and risk management and trying to find or provide assurance around these very much, both from having been around for the cloud the first time and now grappling with marketing, wanting to use AI for things today. I wanted to ask you, not specifically about AI, but in general, philosophically, what is your approach to providing assurance in environments where the tools for doing that have really yet to be developed or matured, and at least in AI's case, may be actively hallucinating as you use them? How do you approach that when it's a green field and you don't know what or who to trust?
Yeah, no doubt. It reminds me of the cloud conversation where, we had all this anxiety about the cloud and like, oh, can you put security in front of it? And we had to go to the cloud without any security tools. As a person who's been championing, I mean, this was championing the embracing of AI. Honestly, what I have right now is administrative controls, agreements, right? I'll be here. I won't be in your way. I'll help you. I'll empower you. I'll be there with you. Can you please not put our sensitive data up into some kind of tool, for that? And they go, yes, we won't do that. It's working. It's working for that kind of a conversation. I don't have good, effective tools that are like DLPing and making sure that that kind of stuff isn't going up there. And I think those tools are coming because we as an industry are going to demand it from the folks that are next door. We're going to demand that kind of capability. But right now, it is you're a champion. They're on board. They want to be safe. They just need the guardrails, and you're saying, yep, let's do it. Promise me you won't do that. And that's about all we have right now, to be honest. There's just not a lot of security controls for that. Please.
Okay, same in the AI theme, because, we're in AI space, right? So we're talking to your board, and your board asks you, what are your top 3 concerns related to AI, and what are you going to do about it?
Good question. I was teaching at, sorry, I'm going to answer the question. AI and ML was actual topic of the course I was teaching at UW yesterday. That was our module. And I mentioned the only thing about AI or ML that gets me concerned is deepfake stuff, okay? The social engineering aspect of deepfake. I'm not concerned about, hey, someone can use a really powerful computer and break your encryption or hack through your firewall, right? So I would say the social engineering power and the other disruptive power as a society, which I can't control society, but of what we have going on with deepfakes. And they'll say, what are you going to do about it? Educate. Because there's nothing I can do about it yet, right? The other things they would ask me about, the concern is, again, as I was mentioning, we might still be tempted or whatever of putting our sensitive data into a particular model or something like that. Well, we put together a governance capability that says we want you to use AI. Come to us, right? So one, if we couch it as we just want to be aware of what you're doing. We're not telling you yes or no, we just want to be aware, right? Now, granted, there might be a no somewhere later on, but that's not what we're couching. You're not coming for approval, you're coming for awareness. 2, we can tell them kind of what their guardrails are, and then we hope for the best, which, you know what I mean? We can check in on how that's going on when I do have an inventory. It's kind of like if I have an inventory of our third parties, I can do risk assessment of the third parties depending upon, their potential risk or impact to the organization. We can do that when I have an inventory. And I don't know if I have a third. So can I stick with 2 and be honest and not just fabricate a third?
So your companies, they're not doing like an internal...
Please.
Sorry. So your company isn't using like an internal instance of like AI ChatGPT type?
We're not generating our own or implementing our own kind of custom AI right now, except for what we are working on as a federation, a machine learning capability to predict where we need to park our vehicles for roadside service so we can be faster response based off probabilities of where an issue might be. But that is not going to have sensitive stuff. It's going to have historical, where the calls were, what were the conditions when those calls happened. Based off these conditions, can we predict where the calls are going to happen there? The only thing I would offer is integrity of the data, right, that's used to train it would be important, so that we have an AI that's actually giving us a good result.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, two parts. First part, what's your opinion on using Copilot or ChatGPT or some other third-party type AI? And if your dev team come in and say, hey, can we use this to generate some codes?
Oh, yeah. Both. Love it. So sorry, let me be more specific. If what we're doing is removing me from having to do, or anybody else from having to do creative writing and take something from scratch, right, and try to use it all over and create something, I say use the information and knowledge that's out there that can frame it and use it well. Might be able to do ciphering of like Copilot could take like, what's going on in a meeting, a Teams conversation, turn around and give you a summary. Awesome. Awesome. There needs to be human today still. Don't know if that's all the way for later, but there still needs to be that human double check that everything was accurate, before we call it ours and it's there. But man, if it can get 90% of the way of getting the meeting notes out and the action items out that came from assessing a Teams chat or something like that, I'm all for it. Again, depending upon that conversation, who knows if there's sensitive information, but as a principle, I'm all for it. And if our dev team, which we have, wants to refer to AI or some kind of generative AI for code it and stuff like that, I'm again behind it, but we'll empower them, tell them to do it, and then say, now let's understand how we double check this is appropriate code, secure code, nothing's embedded in it, and it works for us. And there'll still be that process of checking, which we're supposed to be doing anyway during SSDLC, right, or DevSecOps. We're supposed to be doing it anyway. All I've done is said, now you just don't have to create it from scratch. You can grab it from already kind of pre-made sources. I'm kind of a fan. I don't lose sleep at night over that. Please.
I have a non-machine learning related question.
Awesome.
You talked about reputational risk management and transference and leveraging of insurance for that. How effective is cyber insurance at mitigating or transferring reputational risk, which is going to be tied to your brand? And how do you, what are some of the methods that you use to mitigate that?
Insurance is a very effective way of protecting your reputation, as long as you also have a mechanism from which you communicate that this is what you've done. If you're doing it and there's no mechanism for the communication, you're not going to get the same reputational benefit from the shareholders to understand you're resilient, you can respond, you can recover, and things like that. So for an SEC kind of, or organization that's got to an SEC, that should be in your 5Ks, your 10Ks. People understand you have that capability. The effectiveness of cybersecurity insurance really depends upon the carrier and the policy. You know what I mean? We're big fans of Beasley, personally. Okay, they were too expensive last year. And I worked for about 6 months and showing them everything they were doing. And actually, from the year before they were us, they got too expensive. And then the next year, they dropped their premiums 30% from the previous 2 years. So we're back to Beasley. But that took a lot of work up front. I knew I was going to have to get ready for that. If you can communicate in some way, if you're a service organization, you've got a SOC 2, you're doing stuff with ISO, it can still be kind of plugged in on how you're taking care of your resilience as an organization. Everything's going to be okay, which also means, like with Beasley, they have recovery services. If you're not staffed for that, you've got the right services to respond, recover, restore, get back up. You're going to stay viable. You're not going to all of a sudden be, closing the doors because, of the impact of this. If you have that communication mechanism, it's a great way to show people your resilience and protect your reputation, even when someday, somehow, a protection might fail. Yep.
2 questions.
All right. Thank you.
How many gallons in Lusk Reservoir? No,
Oh
you don't
my
have to-
goodness.
You don't got to answer that one.
Wow. Can I look that up? I haven't done that since 1990.
We can follow up after.
All right, you got a deal.
The more serious question is, given the shift that you're talking about for executive leaders, particularly toward the more involved and broader risk management throughout the company, how do you think about enabling and developing your next layer of leaders?
Yeah. That's a challenge. I don't know if I have a really good answer for it. We just did performance appraisals. I was working with one of my staff members. I said, man, if something was to happen to me, you could run this operation. Piece of cake. Keep the train on the rails. I don't know if you could go in front of the board, though. I don't think you have the polish. And the person was nodding. Yep, you're right. You know what I mean? You're right. That's just not me, and how to develop that, out of that polish and that understanding of kind of pulling yourself out of the weeds and being able to have that perspective. That's a good question. I got to be honest with you. I don't have a good answer. Same with the amount of gallons in Lusk Reservoir. I just don't know. It's a West Point thing of information you had to know as a plebe at West Point, and I've forgotten it. That was 86. God, you're aging me, by the way. So, sorry. I don't know how to get them to that executive level. I can get people I think well trained to be operationally effective, work without me. If I was to get hit by a bus, the program wouldn't even blink. The understanding of now you're still part of that overall, part of the executive team, part of the, board interaction, and you are a risk manager. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know how I became one. Accident. I bumped my head one day. I don't know, because I used to be jumping out of airplanes and shooting people on the way down. So I don't know why I have any kind of capability of that now. So I hope the honesty is the best way I can answer your question.
We'll follow up.
Okay. Anything else?
We'll take one more question.
Okay. I was ready to leave.
So
I forgot
many
about two questions.
We have time for one more.
Thank you for taking my question, sir. You mentioned earlier about there's a change and shift in risk, and I think we've seen this. With the evolution of GRC 15 years ago, tagging together three completely boring and uninteresting topics together into one largely more interesting thing.
Right.
Then we move forward a little bit to where resiliency first raised its head. Okay, let's calm down a little bit more. We have a bunch of people next door that'll sell us a variety of tools to collect more tactical day in and day out data, and yet at the very highest, the board talks enterprise risk, which is largely a hand-curated conversation.
Yes.
This is an air gap that we've seen for almost 2 full decades. And while there are fabulous tools out there, Archer eRisk Manager leading the pack of tools, from your point of view, how are we going to close the remaining part of that air gap to tie our tactical security and risk tools that we are all familiar with on a daily basis to the enterprise risk conversation, as you said, to be part of the wider conversation?
Your question mixed the question over here of tactical operational versus now communicating, at a different level. My knee-jerk reaction to that, because the gap's been there and what's been going on, is I have to translate raw data into something meaningful and informative. Is if, one, we don't have that skill set, I honestly believe some of the people next door are going to make a AI that does it. I'm not kidding. We can show you how we can take this raw data and interpret it in a way, right? Hopefully it's something that you can run inside. You're not shipping your raw data out to someone else, right? And we can produce meaningful metrics, communications, graphs, summaries. The need is there, and it's been a human thing that we've had to do. And of course, what they're trying to do is mimic what we do, but with better automation and better results. I have a funny feeling that's what's on the horizon. Didn't know we were going to go down AI conversation again, but I have a funny feeling that's where that's going to go. Otherwise, it's going to be humans translating data into information. You know what I mean? So, all right. I'll try one more time because Kim is there. Thank you. I hope you had a great lunch. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you have a great rest of your conference. Thank you very much.
Yep.